Just 5 years ago, nicotine was the most demonized molecule in medicine, and today, it's a wellness trend. Andrew Huberman talks about it on his podcast. Alex Hormozi calls it one of the greatest stimulant combos. Dave Asprey wrote his last book on it. RFK endorses it. And Zyn pouches, they're literally flying off the shelves at the gas station. So either we were lied to for 40 years, or something else is going on. I'm Dr. Ben Lynch, and today, I'm going to explain why nicotine is having this moment, what your brain is really doing when you take it, and why most people who are using it right now are actually making the exact problem they're trying to solve worse. And it starts with an understanding how nicotine went from cancer stick to a wellness trend. For 40 years, nicotine and cigarettes were treated as the same thing. They're not. In 1976, a British researcher named Michael Russell published a paper with a single sentence that should have rewritten the entire conversation. He wrote, "People smoke for the nicotine, but they die from the tar." Nicotine isn't what causes lung cancer. The smoke does. The tar does. The 5,000 chemicals released when you light a cigarette do. Nicotine itself is closer to caffeine than to cyanide. That sentence got buried for 40 years. Then the science, started catching up. The US Department of Defense studied nicotine for sleep-deprived soldiers. A 2012 paper in the journal Neurology found that a low-dose nicotine patch improved cognitive function in adults with mild cognitive impairment. And then the biohackers found it. Now your favorite podcast host is talking about it. Your friend has a tin of pouches in his pocket. And nicotine is being marketed as a smart drug when in reality, it's a slow-motion chemical dependence. Which raises the obvious question. What is your brain actually doing on nicotine? Nicotine is a molecule your body never asked for. No doctor has ever run your labs and said, your nicotine is low. No one has ever been diagnosed with a nicotine deficiency because it doesn't exist. Your body does not produce it. It doesn't need it. Yes, nicotine exists in certain plants, tomatoes, eggplants, green tea, but in amounts so small, there's no measurable effect. So why does nicotine work at all? Because nicotine is a structural imposter. Your brain has receptors built for a specific molecule that the body actually produces, what it actually needs, what it actually can be deficient in. Nicotine is shaped closely enough to mimic that molecule that it can slip into those receptors and partially activate them. Your brain didn't evolve to want nicotine. Nicotine just binds just enough to stimulate those receptors. And when it does, you experience some benefit. When you take nicotine through a pouch or a vape or a cigarette, it travels into your bloodstream and reaches your brain in seconds. Once there, it docks onto the receptors scattered throughout your brain. When nicotine hits these receptors in your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain right behind your forehead, your attention sharpens immediately. Your focus comes online. You can hold a thought without it slipping away. When nicotine hits receptors in a region called the ventral tegmental area, it triggers a release of dopamine. That's the motivation you're feeling, the drive, the sense that you can actually start the task you've been putting off. Now, nicotine doesn't bind to the dopamine receptors directly. It activates the receptors that then signal your brain to release dopamine. The effect, though, is real. It's just downstream. And when it hits receptors on your immune cells, it actually partially activates a beneficial anti-inflammatory pathway. All of this is real. None of this is just in your head. The benefit that people report is scientifically documented. But here's what the imposter of nicotine can't do. There's another set of receptors that handle memory consolidation, gut motility, and the deep beneficial parasympathetic calm state of recovery that you need for sleeping, digesting, and repairing. Nicotine partially activates the first set. The second set, nothing at all. Which means nicotine gives you the surface, not the deep repair. Which means you weren't actually craving nicotine. What you were craving instead is a brain chemical called acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is one of the most important neurotransmitters in your body. It runs your focus, your memory, your ability to retrieve a word when you need it, the depth of your sleep, especially your REM, the motility of your gut, bowel movements, the clarity that you have in the morning when you wake up. When you have enough, your brain works. When you don't, you start to notice things are going wrong. You walk into a room, why did I walk in here? You're 3 pages into an article before you realize you haven't absorbed a single word. Names that you've known suddenly take a second too long to surface, if they do. Now, imagine you do your homework, you study everything, you got the concepts, you walk in to take a test, you start freaking out, and then you instantly forget everything you studied for in that moment. And your ability to reason is shot. You stop dreaming. Your bowels slow down. You hit a wall at 2 in the afternoon and you can't think your way out of it. This system cluster, that is what acetylcholine deficiency looks like. And this is why nicotine works so well and so many college kids are using it. Because nicotine is sitting in those receptors that acetylcholine was supposed to be activating. Your brain isn't broken, but it's running out of a specific neurotransmitter. And that neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. Here's how your body makes acetylcholine. It needs just 3 things. Choline from food, acetyl-CoA, which your mitochondria produce using vitamin B5, and an enzyme called CHAT that puts them all together. 3 ingredients, 3 failure points, and most people are short on more than one. The choline number alone should worry you. According to the most recent NHANES data, fewer than 7% of USA adults meet the daily recommended intake of choline. Without eggs in your diet, that number drops to 2%. More than 9 out of 10 Americans aren't getting enough of the raw material of choline their brain desperately needs. So how did we end up here? Why did our brain stop making enough acetylcholine? There's 4 reasons. One, I just talked about. The first is diet. Choline lives in a specific set of foods: eggs, liver, fish, meat. Plant foods? Basically none. And these are exactly the foods most people stopped eating over the last 40 years for cholesterol reasons, ethical reasons, or because eggs got demonized in the 90s and never recovered. If you don't eat eggs, your odds of getting enough choline from food alone are near 0. The second reason, inflammation. The enzyme that destroys acetylcholine is called acetylcholinesterase, and it runs faster when your body is chronically inflamed. Chronic stress, poor sleep, a viral infection triggers persistent inflammation, which destroys your acetylcholine. Even low-grade inflammation most adults and college students are walking around with, this enzyme, acetylcholinesterase, works harder and destroys your acetylcholine before it can do anything. So even what your brain manages to produce in terms of acetylcholine, that gets destroyed too quickly. The third reason is genetics. Now, while I focused on 2 variants, there are a plethora of other variants as well, but I'm going to focus on 2. MTHFR, which a huge percentage of the population carries, raises a blood marker called homocysteine. And I should say the potential for it to raise homocysteine is quite significant. Elevated homocysteine directly impairs the CHAT enzyme that you need to build acetylcholine. And then there's ApoE4. This is a gene that most people associate with Alzheimer's risk. But ApoE4 reduces CHAT activity from birth. So if you're young and you have ApoE4, your ability to produce acetylcholine is lower. And as you age, it gets even more and more reduced in its function. Therefore, your ability to produce acetylcholine gets lower and lower and lower as you age, if you're struggling with ApoE4. The ApoE4 carriers start life with a smaller tank. The fourth reason? This one explains what's going on for a lot of people over the last few years. Research suggests that certain viral spike proteins, I wonder which one, bind directly to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, not through inflammation, not downstream, but to the receptor itself. And when that happens, your acetylcholine cannot bind, and therefore you are not getting any acetylcholine benefit. The signal doesn't get through. The cognitive symptoms that follow, the brain fog, the word retrieval problems, the post-viral fatigue that won't lift, look exactly like severe acetylcholine deficiency. Well, because largely that's what they are. So you have a population running low on raw material, walking around inflamed, receptors blocked, carrying genetic vulnerabilities most have never been tested for. And when that brain runs out, it doesn't shut down. It starts looking for a substitute. And once it finds one, it's a problem. In fact, most forms of nicotine make the problem worse. It's true that nicotine does indeed help. The first time you take it, the focus is real. The clarity is real. The sense of being yourself again is real. Your nicotinic receptors don't sit there passively. When nicotine hits your acetylcholine receptors, your brain does something counterintuitive. It doesn't reduce the number of receptors, which is typically the body's and the brain's response mechanism. Instead, it makes a lot more of them. A lot more. More receptors sounds like a good thing though. It isn't, because your dose stays the same. Now, that same amount of nicotine has to spread across a larger receptor pool. The signal gets diluted. You feel less. So what do? You take more. But your brain responds by making even more receptors. The pool keeps expanding. The signal keeps diluting. Imagine trying to fill a stadium that keeps adding seats. The same amount of nicotine, twice the seats, half the effect. This is why longtime Zyn users and vapors report feeling almost nothing from doses that would have flooded their brains and benefited them just a few months ago. It's not tolerance in the traditional sense. The receptors are there. There's just so many of them that you can't fill them. You're not getting sharp anymore. You're just trying to feel, at best, normal now, when in fact it used to help you immensely. But now you're struggling and you can't live without them. And the underlying acetylcholine deficiency that started this whole thing, it's still there, actually getting worse, because nicotine was never fixing it. It was impersonating it. Every day you're relying on the impersonator. The real system falls further behind. The biohackers think that they're sharpening their brain. They're accelerating a deficiency they didn't know they had. But here's what they're also missing. The upregulation isn't inevitable. It's triggered by the spike of nicotine. Fast in, fast out. That's what signals your brain to make more receptors. Take away the spike of nicotine and you take away the rapid signal. There's only one delivery method of nicotine that reduces the instant hit, and it changes everything about how your nicotine is affecting your brain. Now, which forms of nicotine do you avoid, and which one actually kind of works? So, worst to best. And when I say best, I would say best of the worst. Here's how I'd rank every form of nicotine on the market. The dividing line is always the same. How fast does it spike your blood level and hit your brain? The speed is what drives the receptor upregulation. That speed is what turns a tool into a trap that you cannot get out of. At the absolute bottom are vapes. The lung exposure is real, and vape juice ingredients barely regulated. You're inhaling flavoring compounds approved for eating and not breathing, and that's how popcorn lung happened. Next, cigars, cigarettes, and the pipe. Combustion is what kills. 5,000 chemicals, carbon monoxide, tar, arsenic. The nicotine itself isn't your problem in that situation. The smoke is. In the middle, we've got the pouches and the dips and the snooze. Pouches like Zyns get marketed as the clean form, but there's flavoring compounds, potential microplastics from the pouch material, and whatever it is, it sits against your gum line, destroying it for half an hour with every single dose. And the hit of nicotine that you get from these is still rapid and hits your brain too quickly. Slightly better, but still problematic, nicotine gum and lozenges. Yes, they're pharmaceutical grade, there's no combustion, but oral absorption still produces a spike. It still triggers the same receptor expansion over time. And at the top, by itself, is the nicotine patch. It's slow, steady release across the entire day. Your blood level stays more flat, so there's less immediate hit of nicotine to your brain, so there's less signal for your receptors to upregulate. Your receptor pool stays more fairly stable. This is the only form that I recommend out of any of them, but the patch only works if you know how to use the patch without becoming dependent. And the rules are simple. The lowest available dose is 7 milligrams. Most people can start with this amount. Yet, if you're sensitive, you can start with half. But don't cut the patch. Cutting it changes how the medication releases through the adhesive, and you'll get a dose that doesn't match the label. So you can cover 1/2 of the patch with medical tape or any tape before you apply it. Then you should apply another piece of tape over the top of it so it doesn't fall off. Apply it in the morning, keep it on throughout the day, but remove it before bed. Sleeping with a patch disrupts your sleep and tends to produce intense, vivid dreams that will wake you up or provide restless sleep. If you notice muscle twitching or irritability or headaches, then your dose is too high. You can use the patch every other day or ideally only on an as-needed basis. Some people should never use any form of nicotine. If you have cardiovascular disease, arrhythmias, or recent history of heart attack or uncontrolled high blood pressure, nicotine is not for you. If you are pregnant or might be pregnant, no nicotine in any form. If you have a personal history of addiction, I'd be pretty careful and stay away. There's one more thing that I want you to know about. If you're recovering from a specific viral infection or currently experiencing one, or you're about to travel and stress your immune system, take off the patch. Why? Nicotine temporarily upregulates your ACE2 receptors, which certain viruses use to enter your cells. The key point is this: the nicotine patch still is not fixing anything, but it's buying you time, and it's also telling you if acetylcholine deficiency is likely present. The actual work is how to rebuild your acetylcholine the right way. This is the part that actually fixes the underlying problem. There's 4 phases, and the order in which you apply them is important. Phase 1 is a foundation. Before you take anything aimed at your brain, you need to stabilize the environment first. And it's pretty simple: sodium, potassium, magnesium. Creatine at 3 to 5 grams a day. Then you add on acetylglutathione, which protects the enzyme that builds the acetylcholine and slows the breakdown. Then add in a high quality fish oil, ideally with some lipase in it, to support the brain cells. This phase can take anywhere from just a couple days to a couple weeks, depending on how dehydrated you are and how low your glutathione is. Don't skip it. Phase 2 is methylation. You know your methylation needs support if you order a blood marker called homocysteine. It's cheap and it's easy to do, and you could even do it online yourself. You don't need a doctor for this. Elevated homocysteine impairs the enzyme that builds acetylcholine, and it also speeds up the one that destroys it. The target for homocysteine ideally is 7 micromoles per liter. Most labs flag anything below 15 as normal, but that range was set for heart disease, not brain function. So I want you looking at your homocysteine and ideally being between 7 to 9. You don't have to get it perfect, but work on it. And you can support homocysteine simply and safely by adding in riboflavin, because riboflavin supports your MTHFR enzyme. Then you can add in folates such as folinic acid or methylfolate or both. You choose which one works best for you. It doesn't matter. Just don't take folic acid. Then you can add in B12 as hydroxycobalamin, which is a gentle form of B12 compared to methylcobalamin, which can be pretty stimulating, but either form works well. Your preference. And then vitamin B6, ideally as P5P. You can retest your homocysteine after a month, and when it's below 10, you can just head to phase 3 while you're working on your homocysteine. Phase 3 is actually addressing the acetylcholine support. Now it's time to give your brain the actual building blocks. Alpha GPC is a form of choline that drives right through the blood-brain barrier. Vitamin B5, this is the cofactor to help take that alpha GPC to turn the choline into acetylcholine. Without B5, you can't do it. And you can take additional plant compounds not only to support the acetylcholine production, but to slow the breakdown of it. Bacopa, American ginseng, and huperzine A, these are all supportive of that. And I built a formula called Optimal Focus around exactly this stack. It's got the alpha GPC, the citicoline, the vitamin B5, the Bacopa, the DHA, the American ginseng, and huperzine A at clinically relevant doses. It's in the link below. It's what I personally use when I need sustained cognitive output. Last week I used Optimal Focus every day before I stepped on stage. I gave 3 separate talks for 1 hour each. And I was calm, I was locked in, and I was able to recall the science all smoothly. Now phase 4 is the taper. This is not calendar based, it's feeling based. As your acetylcholine levels come back online to healthy levels in your brain, you're gonna notice that you don't need the Zyn pouches. You don't need the nicotine as much. And then you're also not gonna need the supplement as much. And your memory is getting better. Your recall is getting better. On good days, skip the patch and the supplements. On the days where you need some additional support, try the supplement only without the patch. I want you off of nicotine completely because you are not deficient in it. Remember, You are deficient in acetylcholine, not nicotine. How do you actually know it's working? Because you feel it. You've got the recall, you've got the memory, you've got the vivid dreams coming back, and you've got the bowel movements happening. Now, recovery varies from person to person. It can take as little as a couple hours, literally. If you're young and in college and use support with a supplement, bang, you can feel your head come back online. It's pretty fast. Now, if you're older, it might take a few days, but from what I've seen clinically, it's fast, very fast. The key is knowing that you've been acetylcholine deficient, not nicotine deficient. So imagine a bell-shaped curve. When you started with nicotine, your acetylcholine levels were 0. And when you kept taking your nicotine, your acetylcholine levels were still 0, and you're actually diluting your acetylcholine receptors even more. So now you need to switch over to a supplement that actually supports your acetylcholine levels. And when you do that, it can happen quickly because you're restoring your acetylcholine levels. They're down here, and imagine a bell-shaped curve. You start building your acetylcholine, it goes up, 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 and you reach a peak. When you're at that peak, you've got the good memory, you've got the good recall, you've got the good bowel movements, you've got the good REM sleep. You don't take it the next day, okay? If you take it the next day, you're gonna go down on the other side, and that's side effects. We don't want side effects. I'm gonna link an article for you that describes acetylcholine deficiency, acetylcholine excess, and healthy acetylcholine levels. And from there, look at that chart and figure out where you are on that spectrum and support it. And then as you're taking the supplement, see where you are before you take it again, because you don't want to get the side effects. You do want to get to the healthy levels. Most supplement companies, what they do is buy my supplement, take it every single day, and with acetylcholine, you take it on an as-needed basis only. I find that I need acetylcholine when I'm using my brain a lot, when I'm doing research, when I'm about to step on stage, and you, probably before you're doing a big presentation at work, or you're studying for a big exam at school, or you're taking an exam at school. Those are great scenarios. Or if you're trying to get off of nicotine and you need some support doing that. Comment below with any questions you have about nicotine. Let's get your brain back on naturally without chemical dependence.